All right, today we're diving deep into a massive, and I mean massive update for the Logibus software. This isn't just a patch, it completely redefines the entire development workflow. So if you use this system, you're definitely going to want to pay close attention because the old way of doing things, that whole era of manual mapping, it's officially over.
To really get a sense of how big this is, you just have to look at this quote from Franz Höpfinger, who's one of the key people behind this whole thing. He doesn't mince words. He says, basically everything you know is completely turned upside down. Wow, I mean, that's a pretty bold statement, right? So we're going to unpack exactly what that means for you and your projects.
Okay, so here's our game plan. First up, we're going to talk about the biggest change of all, the end of mapping. Then we'll get hands-on with the installation and getting started for the first time. After that, we'll tackle the hardware-firmware update, and then the really cool part, the new workflow. And to wrap it all up, we'll cover how you can update your old projects. You'll see some German on the slides. That's just the native language of the software. But I'll walk you through everything. Let's get to it.
All right, Section 1, the end of mapping. And honestly, calling it the biggest change in a decade isn't an exaggeration. This is a fundamental shift. And look, for anyone out there who's spent hours, maybe even days, wrestling with that old mapping system, I've got some amazing news for you. It's gone. Completely.
And really, this comparison says it all, doesn't it? The old way, you had to manually link every single thing in a separate file. It was complex, it was tedious, and honestly, super prone to errors. But now you've got direct, live configuration happening right inside your application. It's just a huge, huge relief. But it's also really important to know, the old version isn't being maintained anymore. So this is the only way forward.
Okay, so you're probably thinking, this sounds great, but how do I get started? Well, that's exactly what we're covering in Section 2, installation and your first start. Let's get you up and running. It's actually a pretty clean 5-step process. First, you're going to download 2 key files. That's the Training 1 Release 019 package and the Milestone IDE. Easy enough. Then you'll unpack those, create a proper shortcut, pick your workspace, and finally, just make a quick tweak to your antivirus to make sure everything runs super smoothly. Now, to make sure your start is as smooth as possible, I've got a few pro tips for you. These are the little things that can trip you up. First, definitely use 7-zip to unpack the files. The standard Windows tool can cause some weird issues. Second, and this is a big one, create a shortcut to the app. Don't just copy the exe file over. And here's something that gets a lot of people. Make absolutely sure that the workspace folder is the very last thing in the file path you choose. Lastly, for a nice little performance boost, you can exclude the IDE from Microsoft Defender. Okay, software's ready to go. Now it's time to talk about the hardware. So in Section 3, we're covering the firmware update. You've got to flash your physical device, the hutch and mop it as they call it, with the newest firmware to make sure everything plays nicely together. Luckily, the process here is super straightforward. You just connect the device with a USB cable, select that Alpha 03 firmware file, and hit program. Now, the most important part here is to be patient. You have to wait for it to hit 100%. Don't interrupt it. Once it's all done, just unplug it, plug it back in, and the console will pop right up. Okay, here's a really important troubleshooting tip you're going to want to remember. After a big version jump like this one, you might look for your configuration files, the .ini files, and they're gone. But don't panic. This is actually supposed to happen. The fix is super easy. Just reset the device, and then right away, within 4 seconds, press and hold the boot button. That's it. It'll manually regenerate all those files for you. Now, when it comes to getting your device on a network, you basically have 2 main options. First is access point mode, or AP mode. This is where the device creates its own Wi-Fi network that you can connect to. The other option is client mode, or STA mode, where it joins an existing network, like your Wi-Fi at home from your Fritzbox. And see that little XX in the SSID name? That's actually super clever. It gives each device a unique ID, which is a lifesaver when you start working with more than one of them. Okay, now for the part I've been really excited to show you. Section 4, the new workflow. This is where you're going to feel the massive difference in speed and power. First up, and this is the absolute #1 benefit, live changes with no restart. I'll say it again, no more restarting. You can literally change inputs, change outputs, right in your application, hit upload, and boom, you see the result instantly. Think of all the time you're going to save. No more of that tedious compile, upload, restart cycle that just breaks your flow. Next up, the logic is just so much simpler now. The names you give to your block instances, they're totally flexible. They're completely separate from what the block actually does. You could seriously call an input Hans and an output Sep, like the developers were joking about, and the system just doesn't care. It might seem like a small thing, but trust me, it removes a massive mental roadblock. And this one This is a total game changer, especially if you're just learning the system. You get instant feedback on your errors. I mean, instant. If you type in an invalid input name, the block just turns red. Right there. It flags the problem before you even think about compiling. So, no more hunting for some tiny typo buried in a separate mapping file. The error is right in your face, right when you make it.
And your workflow is about to get even faster with these accelerators. For one, you can create these sub-applications, basically reusable blocks of code, and you can just copy and paste them wherever you want, no remapping anything manually. You also get a bunch of new event types for more precise control, things like held start or long press up. And if you're ever wondering what functions are available, you can find everything listed right there in the type library. Super handy.
Okay, so this all leads to the big question, the one that I'm sure is on the mind of anyone who's been using Logibus for a while now. Section 5 is all about that, migrating your existing work.
So what happens to all your old projects? All that work you've already done? Can you even bring it into this new system? Well, I've got good news. The answer is yes, you absolutely can. And the process is actually pretty straightforward.
Here's your 5-step migration plan. And step 1 is the most important, so listen up. Archive your project. Make a backup before you do anything else. Seriously. Okay, once that's safe, you're going to delete the old type library folder. Then just copy the type library from a brand new, clean project and paste it into your old one. After that, open your project in the new workspace, and the last step is to relink your inputs and outputs using that new, super simple direct method.
You know, when you boil it all down, the goal of all this work is really to make sure everyone has a smooth start, especially the next wave of engineering students, the Meisterschüler, who are going to be learning this system from the ground up. It's really all about building a smarter, more intuitive foundation for the future.
So the big takeaway here is pretty clear, right? The bad old days of wrestling with those awful, complex mapping files, they're gone. Development in Logibus is just faster, it's more intuitive, it's just better than it has ever been. And that really only leaves one final question for you. Now that development is this fast, this intuitive, what amazing thing are you going to build next?